Hey guys, what's going on? MJ Madness here, and today we are going to be looking at the 5 most likely NHL expansion teams. So basically, the reasoning for me making this video is just last year the NHL announced that they are going to be expanding the league. They are actively seeking out expansion. They've let different cities put in bids and things like that because they really just want to increase the growth of the league. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is counting down the teams and the cities that I think are most likely to get a team. And then I had a friend of mine design some concept art and jerseys. So basically, I'm going to be giving you the cities, and then I'm going to be giving you possible names, and also show you some logos and jerseys. So again, I did not design these logos, but I just thought they'd be something cool to show you guys. So all credit goes to the man who made them for me. But anyway, let's get into it, and I'll look at some concept art, some possible designs, and talk about 5 teams that I think will get an NHL franchise soon. So at number 5, I'm going with the Halifax Highlanders. Now, I thought Halifax might get a team because I think there's really a real passionate fan base in that entire east coast of Canada, and they don't really have a team to serve them. Like, they have to go as far away as Montreal, and there's around 2 to 3 million people all living in that area of Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick. So basically, I figured the NHL definitely likes to expand into Canada because, face it, that's where hockey is most loved, and there's definitely a lot of hockey fans in that area. And then I chose Halifax because I thought it's the biggest city and the most major hub in the Maritimes of Canada. And so I thought they'd probably be the city that would get a team. And so that's why I went with them. And then I decided to pick the name the Halifax Highlanders because, for one, it works well together. The two H's kind of form alliteration. But I just thought, the entire city is history with Highlanders. That's kind of how the Maritimes were formed, by people coming in from Scotland and Ireland, things like that, and they really have that culture. So I thought it would be something cool that would represent the entire way of life in the Maritimes and give them their own kind of unique identity. For the jerseys, we went with a lion on the front, holding a hockey stick just to relate it back to that hockey, of course. But he's again supposed to represent that Highlander culture. I went with kind of blue for the main jerseys, white on away, and then I also designed some alternate jerseys. Well, I guess my friend designed them, but we put in some orange, some yellow, some red, all colors that kind of link back to the Halifax culture. So overall, I think the design looks pretty sweet. And while Halifax is probably the least likely of the 5 teams on this list to get an NHL franchise, I think hopefully it does happen because they definitely deserve it. And this is some concept art for what it would look like if it did. And number 4, I went with the Ontario Beavers. So many people jokingly call Toronto the center of the hockey universe, although I really think there's a lot of truth to that name. Toronto is a really, really large city, a population of over 5 million, the largest in Canada, and it is a die-hard city for hockey. They really love their Toronto Maple Leafs there, and so I thought logically it just might make sense that they have another team come into Toronto or into that greater Toronto area. I mean, when you think of it, places like New York where they love baseball, they have 2 teams there. Chicago also loves baseball. They have 2 teams. Football, there's 2 teams in New York. Even basketball, there's more than one team in several cities. So I think with hockey, you don't really have that. And I think if you were going to put a second team anywhere, I think Toronto would just make the most sense. I really think a team would succeed there and do really well. And definitely there's been talks of this happening. So I think it's quite possible. So I chose Ontario instead of Toronto, just because I think it wouldn't necessarily be in the exact same place, but maybe more in that greater Toronto area, somewhere like Markham or London, somewhere around Toronto. And then I went with the name Ontario, just to represent kind of the entire province. And then I chose Beavers, just because I thought the Beavers are the national animal of Canada. They like wood and hockey sticks, stuff like that. I don't know, I just thought it would be kind of cool. And then my friend did a really good job making the jerseys on this. As you can see, I think it looks really sweet. We got green as the main color, and then the alternate jersey, we threw some yellow and orange into that one as well. We got the logo kind of down there. On the jerseys, there's one. It's kind of just a beaver with a hockey stick kind of making up that profile of him. I think it looks really awesome. And so while it's definitely not a guarantee, I think it's for sure likely that another NHL team would come to Toronto, and this is concept art and what I would like them to look like if they did. Coming in at number 3, I have the Seattle Kraken. This is one of my favorite designs on this list. I just think the logo and the jerseys look really sick. But basically, I chose Seattle because they are one of the cities that has submitted a bid for a new NHL team. They're working on a new arena to bring in an NBA team as well. And I really think this is one of the more likely cities that an NHL team could come to. The NHL really loves Seattle, and they want to balance out the league by adding more Western Conference teams. So I definitely think the league will be looking towards Seattle. I went with the name Kraken because I figured Seattle is really influenced by the ocean, and I just thought it'd be cool to bring in some mythological elements. So I went with the Kraken. I think the logo looks really awesome. We got some pretty sweet jerseys, and then the third jersey, the alternate, it's inspired by the old NHL team in Seattle, the Metropolitans, that played 50 years ago. So that's the inspiration for the stripes on the third jersey. Overall, just a really cool look, and definitely a team that may come to the NHL soon, and I think it would look really great if it did. At number 2, we have the Quebec Nordiques. Now, this one is, I think, at some point, the Quebec Nordiques will get their team back. I think they have the stadium to do so, they have the fan support, and hopefully it's only a matter of time before an NHL franchise comes back to Quebec. I think the only obvious choice for the name was to stick with that Quebec Nordiques moniker that they had back in the 90s and the 80s. I think it's really disappointing for the entire city of Quebec that they had to see their team leave to Colorado. So it's definitely kind of disappointing for them, but they really have the passionate fans. So I think it's entirely possible and even likely that a team will come back to Quebec City because, again, they have the arena for it. They have the passionate fan base. They really have a great market for hockey. For the jerseys, I tried to mix the old and the new. I kept the main logo the same, but I added some small kind of fleur-de-lis on the shoulder patches. Just some slight minor upgrades. And then as you can see on the alternate jersey, that's really where we went pretty crazy. I think it looks really sweet. I like bringing in the fleur-de-lis on the shoulder patch and on the main crest in terms of the third jersey. Overall, just a really nice look for the team. And I really hope the city of Quebec gets their team back because they definitely deserve it and they would look really good. And so, in the end, I think it's probably more likely than not that a team does come back to Quebec City, and I think that's really great for them. And coming in at number 1, I am going with the Las Vegas Desert Knights. Now, this one is kind of cheating a little bit because this, in fact, is already confirmed. There will be a new NHL Las Vegas expansion franchise coming to the league in 2017. So basically, just this summer, they decided and announced that a new team will be coming to Las Vegas. Bill Foley is the owner of it. I think they've hired George McPhee as the general manager. They have the arena, the T-Mobile Center, and I get excited if you're someone in Las Vegas and a fan of hockey because by 2017, next NHL season, they will have a team playing there. Now, the only thing they haven't yet announced is the name and the logos and things like that, but an announcement is expected in a couple of weeks. That was kind of my inspiration to make this video. And basically, I went with the name Desert Knights, not necessarily because I like it, but because that's what the predicted name is. That's kind of a rumor I've heard from sources that that's probably what they're going to call the team. Something along the lines of Knights. And so I figured may as well make a concept art based on what the probable name of the team will be. So I made the main logo up there on the top left, and then we have some alternate logos down below that I think look really nice. The jerseys are just more desert colors. You know, we got some red, some gold, and then just black or gray and white. I really like the alternate jerseys. They kind of remind me of like sand in the desert, and I think that looks pretty sick as well. Overall, just a really nice look, and so I think if Las Vegas did choose to go with Desert Knights, they'd have some really nice options to choose from. Me personally, I would prefer a name like maybe like the Aces or the Flamingos, Actually, I think Scorpions would be my favorite. But Desert Knights, while it does seem a little strange, probably wouldn't be that bad after all. So anyway, that's kind of my entire look for the next unknown NHL team coming to Las Vegas in 2017. But keep in mind, I think any of the other 4 teams on this list may be getting an expansion franchise pretty soon in the upcoming years. So definitely something to get excited for if you're a fan of the National Hockey League. So if you enjoyed this video where I looked at some concept art and things like that and want to see me do it for some other leagues, maybe like concept NBA teams, football, stuff like that, be sure to let me know in the comments down below and leave your opinion as to what cities you think should get an NHL franchise and maybe some names for those teams as well. So that's it for me. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting sports content. We're really in a great time if you're someone who follows the channel and follows the world of sports. A lot of things are up in full swing. Baseball just finished. Hockey and football are really going now. NBA just started. Overall, a great time to be a fan of sports and a fan of the channel. So be sure to stay subscribed because I can promise you there's some exciting content coming up in the next couple of days. So thank you guys all for watching and take care.